Hi, my name's Carmen Thompson. I'm a curator and a researcher, creative producer. I work for African Motion Film Festival here in well, not here, I'm not in Edinburgh or Glasgow, but it's in Edinburgh and Glasgow every year. And I'm also delighted to have just been appointed a board member of Document Human Rights Film Festival as well, another great Scottish film festival. And I'm also doing a PhD at University of Edinburgh. And yeah, like John says, I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves, but I just want to say I'm really delighted to be here. I think it's a really important conversation. And yeah, and I think it's a couple of amazing people doing some really cool things. So maybe if we start with Vanessa.
Sure. Hi, guys. I'm Vanessa Kanbi. I'm Ghanaian and Scottish, and I am a filmmaker, podcaster, and presenter. And I like to sort of like shine a light on untold stories and try and raise awareness for any inequalities in the world. I mean, obviously I'm one person, so I can't do everything, but I try, like, things that I see, I really like to film them and sort of put them out to the world to hope that change will happen. I've grown my YouTube channel to over 45,000 subscribers, and I've got about 4.5 million views on there. So that's like one of my main focuses. And then I've also created content for the BBC, for Turner, for like Turner CNN, that sort of thing as well. And I have been on the People's News recently, this year and last year, which is a BBC TV show. So it's kind of like filmed yourself and then send it in. But normally I film and edit and direct all of my own stuff. I also have a podcast called Magnificent Mothers, and I'm on BBC Radio Scotland like quite regularly as well.
I'm not busy at all then.
And I've got 2 kids, and obviously during lockdown that adds a bit of a spanner in the works. Although, do you know what? It's been great to spend time with them. It's just difficult to kind of balance that, managing to do all my editing and things, because that is the thing about, I guess we'll get into that, but when you're creating your own content for your own platforms, you have to keep creating. You can't just stop creating, like then I will stop making money. So yeah, that's the thing. That's me. I'm Vanessa.
Thanks, Vanessa. And Stewart.
Hi guys, my name's Stewart Kyasimire. I'm a producer director. I recently produced and directed Black and Scottish for BBC Scotland. Overwhelmed by the response and feedback. It came out October last year, Black History Month. It did well, especially on BBC iPlayer. But then post George Floyd, it done extremely well. We had Netflix, we had Digital Spy, with Scottish Government, all these different companies promoting it as one of the top films to watch, Black films. Also, from the reason I made the documentary was growing up in Scotland, there was no notable Black Scots. So I wanted to provide role models for my daughter and her generation. So as I said, that was successful. And from there, I then started my own production company, Create Anything. And it's just overwhelmed by the response. I've had Channel 4 wanting me to make films for them. I've had BBC Studio contacting me. I've had so many companies ask me to direct. And now I managed to secure my second commission for the BBC 3. And during lockdown, I made a trailer for a kids television show with my daughter Yasmin, who was in the documentary. So I made that, and then just last week I got commissioned for it. It's for CBeebies and CBBC. So she'll be the first BAME lead on CBeebies and CBBC. So these are the kind of things that have transpired from the documentary. But I would say my main thing is coming into this industry. There's no other black people. There's no other Black Scottish directors that have been commissioned. So I'm all for bringing people, creating awareness and taking people with me, because it seems like they don't have anywhere else to go. So that's part of my remit.
Amazing. I'm just incredibly intimidated by both of you. So I wanted to start off just because of the conversation we're having, I guess, and just to give a bit of context, and I hope it doesn't feel like a very big question, but just to get a sense of how you guys, I know you've kind of given indications of it in your intros, of kind of how you came into this space, like why, kind of what was your journey into creating content, and I suppose just because we're talking with the Scottish Documentary Institute, like why specifically documentary, or I guess sort of non-fiction storytelling, why is that kind of important to you in terms of and Black voices, and why do you think that's kind of important to have more Black voices in that space? Perhaps we can start with you, Stuart.
Yeah, well, I'm a creative. I started off as a designer, a user experience designer, working for big brands. I'm used to like things like stakeholder managing and leading design teams. But I'd always had prior to that, I started in music, and I always had an interest in music videos. I got people to make music videos for me, and it just didn't work out. I always had an eye for, I'm a director, so I always had a visual style that I wanted to achieve. This must have been about 10 years ago. So being a designer, you need to think about the demographic. You need to think about personas, the people that you're designing for. So I think coming from that background, you kind of have an understanding of the human mind and what do you think that they're going to do next. So a few years down the line, I started getting more interested in the cinematography side of things first and foremost, and then just I would say growing up in Scotland, I was frustrated with the fact that the narrative was always negative. So every year, Black History Month, there was some negative stories, some positivity in there, but I knew that I wanted to make something that was positive and something long-standing for the next generation. So the reason I went down the documentary route is because that's the best way to tell stories. You can get in depth with your contributors, and I love having conversations with people. I love understanding why they do certain things. So that's the reason I would think, let's say the human mind and taking the technology and bringing them together, you end up naturally being a producer director. Now, I didn't have a career in TV before that, so all of the jargon and all of the things like that is all new to me. But I don't feel you need to know these things unless you have a great team behind you. That would work. So I've kind of got a maverick, unorthodox, disrupting style. So what was the other part of your question? Why black voices?
Yeah, I mean, I guess why do you think it's important that we kind of, in non-fiction specifically, I guess?
That's extremely important. Yeah. I would say I'm very, very, very frustrated with the fact that look, 1% of there's 1% of Black people in Scotland, but yet there's a large community of creatives. I don't know what the stats are in the whole UK as a whole, but the Black culture, the Black community throughout the world is vast and very, very influential. So because of that, I'm frustrated because I wouldn't say that I was lucky. I was just a lot more persistent. But to walk into the BBC, to walk into Channel 4, to walk into the Scottish government and seeing no other Black people, it's just, it really disturbs me because instantly I had questions like, why do I know of creatives, why do they not have an opportunity? So Black voices are not represented. We have a story as well. The thing I'm always pushing is if you have this white community and then you start to bring in ethnic minorities, then you have a wider stories to tell. And I don't think that's what I would say these other, I'm going to say the white community, but I'm not generalizing it, but that's what I don't think they understand. And that's why I think Black and Scottish did very well, because it was kind of the first time you're seeing and hearing these stories. And it was only, Vanessa was in the documentary. It was only a half-an-hour documentary, but it made such a big impact. So the way I'm looking at it now is like, okay, if that's the impact that it's making for half an hour, what we're going to be doing, what if we have Vanessa making documentaries and all the other creatives as well, you know, what would that be like? So now post George Floyd, there's a lot more, the networks are taking a lot more interest. But for me, but for me, it's still upsetting to know that we are underrepresented, and I don't know why. I know why, but that is my main frustration, because I have 4 kids, not just Yasmin. So if they want to get into the industry, they're going to find that difficult because they can see a lack of representation. So I feel that it's my job, part of my job, to create a path for these individuals, so that when I leave the industry, there's people who are representing and telling their stories. So that's the main reason.
And Vanessa, you mentioned you're kind of bringing to light untold stories right from your introduction. I guess that was a massive motivation for you as well. And I guess, and you say that Ghana is kind of what you've chosen to really, focus your content on.
Yeah, so the reason why I got into filmmaking in the first place is because I used to model. I modeled for like 10 years, and I kind of realized that, first of all, I didn't agree with the industry, and second of all, my voice wasn't being heard at all. You're just there being told basically what to do, and then being used for adverts that you don't really have any say in. And so I kind of stepped away from that industry and decided to use my own voice. And because I had a child, actually, I was like, what can I do from home? So that's when I started my YouTube channel. So that was like the first steps for me. And then I actually got in contact with BBC The Social. So I started creating content for them. And then other opportunities came up and I got into different things. But why Black voices is the same reason as Stewart said, completely underrepresented. I realized that on a lot of sort of morning talk shows, I would see just like racist remarks going by and nothing being done about it, as if it was just normal. Almost every day when I'd see clips, I'd watch clips online, and it just seemed to be like the norm. There was that on top of the sort of like poverty porn, which is put on TV, representing Africa in one light. Yes, there is poverty within Africa, but there's also, really fast growing economies. There's great opportunities. There's actually so much going on within Africa that isn't shown I don't feel like it's shown on TV here. So, you're showing one side, but not the other. That's what led me really to starting my YouTube channel, focusing on Ghana. So I started focusing on something else. And then I decided to focus on Ghana to show the opportunities there, and also, the great things that are happening in the country with the people. And there's also links, obviously. I mean, Ghana used to be colonized by Britain. So I think that they have a duty to not just show one side of the country. And also, I've found that trying to get things commissioned that do actually have links to Scotland with Africa, for example, is really difficult. I was even told by some production companies, like, you will really struggle to get that sort of thing commissioned, when it does have a link to Scotland and there is reasons why these things should be commissioned. So that's when I kind of took myself to social media and just decided to create my own content, because that means I can just make what I want, put it out there, and it's doing really well. And so that's the sort of way I've gone with it.
So I guess thinking about your own experiences then, have you identified anything that you think, what the kind of specific roadblocks that are being put in place for Black content producers? And I guess, do you think there's something unique perhaps to the Scottish context? Maybe they just haven't kind of moved ahead in some of the ways that other parts of the country have. I know nobody's really doing very well in this space at all, but like you were saying, Vanessa, it seems that they really haven't come to terms with a lot of their history of some of these ideas. Do you think that's kind of feeding into how they commission and how you know, the makeup of their production teams and things?
I mean, I think it's really important to have a diverse commissioning team. You know, if every one of your commissioners is white, then of course it's not potentially in their best interest, you know, to commission something from a Black or other ethnic minority creator. And if you don't have that sort of like foresight of what those people are going through, then it just might not go through. I think that has a lot to do with it, to be honest. And if, you know, the producers you're talking to are all white and everybody in that chain is white, they just don't understand the urgency of the situation, in my opinion.
And Stewart, you were saying that you didn't feel lucky, but you felt like you were persistent, and that's kind of why you were successful in things. Is there, you know, I guess everyone, not necessarily everyone, has that persistence, or they don't kind of know what they're meant to do to get into these spaces. Do you think that's an issue as well?
See, for me, that's a funny one, because when I say I was lucky, I live in an area where it's a ridiculous amount of people that work for the BBC. You know, I live in an area where the BBC headquarters was not far from us. So how I got into the industry was, I literally was just reading. We watched the documentary, and the credits came down, and I was with my partner, and she's like, "Oh, there's Anne Claire Pilley," and I was like, she's like, "That's Chloe's mum or whatever," and I'm like, she's like, why didn't you go and speak to her? Because what I'd done is I'd made a trailer for Black and Scottish, because I'm a self-shooting director. So all of everything that I've had commissioned, I made a trailer for first, because what I learned was going in and having a summary and having a treatment just doesn't work. Sorry, I'm going to head ahead a little bit. So I made the Black and Scottish trailer, and then I managed to approach this woman, Anne Claire. I kind of pitched it to her. She was interested, and then she contacted Turn Television, who she was working for at the time, and then from there, they went to the BBC to apply for a commission. But we obviously worked on it. We did our development, etc. Put together the pitch, and from there, I started speaking to Turn Television, and I actually found out that they didn't think that it would be a success. They were reluctant to pitch it, but I kind of kept persisting that we should. And then what happened was I then found myself in the BBC having a meeting with Louise Thornton, one of the commissioners, and literally just sitting there, instead of talking, just sitting there and showing her the trailer. That was her. She was interested, and because we were working alongside Turn Television, they had the experience. They're a very good production company. They're the guys that produce People's News that Vanessa's on. So would you say that was lucky, or would you say that was fate? Obviously, I had to create the content to be able to approach.
I was going to say, you have to produce the trailer to begin with.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't say to people, go ahead and watch some shows, read some credits, and then just contact them. It's not really that. I was just lucky in that sense. But then what happened was I had this relationship with Louise Thornton, and I pitched something else to her verbally, and she's like, "That's very interesting. Yeah, I'm really interested in that. I'm going to give you access to BBC Pitch." And that's like the holy grail, because once I got access to that, that was it. My production company literally took off, because to get a pitch in front of commissioners is difficult. Now, when I go into BBC Pitch, I can pitch anything, and I can factual, comedy, anything I want to any commissioner throughout the UK, not just Scotland. So I think for me, that was like I remember getting access to it, and I was like, oh my God, I've got access to BBC Pitch. This is amazing. Because going through Turn Television, that they were like, yes, we'll put it through Pitch for you. You know, it's our little portal that you can't get access to, but we'll put it through Pitch. And then I got access to BBC Pitch, and I would genuinely say that it's production companies. I wasn't a production company. I didn't have a production company at the time, but it's normally production companies. But I would say once I got access to that, that was it. Because now I pitched another two commissions and I won them. So
do you think? I mean, do you think the BBC is doing a good enough job to make that accessible to enough people?
For me, yeah, of course. Yeah. But no, I don't think so at all, because as I said, I'm only Black commissioned producer director. So that was very lucky for me to get that, and I guarantee you, if we have more access to things like BBC Pitch, then they will take notice. I know it's sad to say post George Floyd, but they will take notice. But no, that's very difficult. I've been trying to get Vanessa access to BBC Pitch. Hopefully we're going to work together and go through my company. But then once we're in there, I want Vanessa to then have that conversation with those commissioners, and then in turn she gets access to that. But no, the industry makes it very difficult for us. They don't have any. There's only one person of color commissioner up in Scotland. There's no one like us. So because of that, how are these individuals going to have empathy and compassion and listen to our stories? That's one thing that needs to change. And one thing that I noticed was now I'm speaking to a lot more people. People are asking if I can go on the board, or Channel 4 had asked me if I'd be interested in as a digital factual commissioner role. So they're starting to listen to us, but I'm the kind of person, when I'm taking no for an answer. So when I walked into the BBC and spoke to them about my second commission, I said, just to let you know, I'll be making this anyway, because I have access to Channel 4, but then the documentary I'm making is of a social media influencer who has like 3 million followers worldwide, 3 billion views combined. So I'd said to them, look, one post from them for this trailer, we may get millions of views. So yeah. I never show the commission. I never come across like, can you please help me? Can you give me this opportunity? I walk in saying, this is what I've created.
Yeah. You can come on this ride with me or not. Yeah.
You can come on this ride with me. I know this is a great story. Yeah. The reason I know that it's a great story is because coming from design, I've done my analytics, I've done my feedback, I've done my testing, and the figures are showing this and that, and then from there.
Yeah. I think that, I guess, thinking about how white these spaces tend to be, and I think if we're thinking about up and coming creators that are trying to get into the industry, things like mentorship, things like training, and things are so important. I wonder, like, Vanessa, who are the people who were there for you when you were on that journey? And kind of how do we facilitate that people are there in these spaces? Obviously now you're kind of you're using the power that you've now gained from being in a particular space to get to help Vanessa into that. Kind of how do we cultivate this network of different people?
So, I mean, initially, I've taught myself absolutely everything, from everything to everything. Like, I've never been taught anything to do with film. And one thing, so I guess I just did it myself, and I'm the same as Stewart. I think that you kind of need that. You need to just go and do things yourself. You just need to have that sort of mentality of you're going to do it whether this person wants it or not, because otherwise you're probably just going to get deflated, if your ideas are maybe knocked down or whatever. And so I'm definitely a go-getter, and I wouldn't say that I really had anyone to begin with, although I'm not scared to like just DM people and ask them for advice, or like, can you have a call with me, that sort of thing. Just anyone, my sort of the people that I look up to. I've DM'd some of like the biggest YouTubers, for example, are some of them willing to talk to you and that sort of thing. But last year I was on the Network, it's Edinburgh TV Festival. They've got like I think it's like a charity side of them, and they basically take on people that are new to the industry and that want to learn more. And it's like a week-long course, and you get to go to all these amazing lectures from commissioners to Louis Theroux even gave us a talk, you know, so we got to speak to all these incredible people. That was amazing. So that was last year I was on that. And then off the back of that, they send you a lot of job opportunities. So what they try and do is they try and get everyone that was on the network to then get a job. Like, that is basically their aim. And that's the sort of really great thing that is out there. And it's just trying to find out about these things, you know, just applying for these sort of things, because there is things out there. You just have to sort of like work hard. You know, my the interview, it was a video, and so obviously I used the skills that I've created to make a really good video to make sure that I sort of got a position on the network, which is quite difficult to get. And so yeah, I got that. And also I think talking to people, obviously, you know, networking, and it does make a difference. I worked at the BBC for 3 months, end of last year, start of this year, as a researcher on the digital team. And that gave me great insight into the way that they work and they produce. I mean, I was editing content for them. And so I think that's great to go into actual employment for a couple of months and see how other places do it, especially when you're starting out. Because although I'm self-employed, I've always been self-employed for my whole life, it's also great to get that insight from different companies as well.
Yeah.
I would just quickly like to add to that, the commonalities, similarities between the two of us is kind of empowerment and self-teaching. And that's the main one. That's the main thing for the both of us. That if I'm giving any advice to anyone who's trying to get into the industry, you have to be different. You have to, as I said, I'm a cameraman, I color grade, I edit, I interview, etc. Like, that's taken a while, you know. That's taken, like, I'm 40 this year. Oh my God. But that's taken a long time for me to do that, and the hours that I'm spent staying up, like the time I'm putting into it is ridiculous. And also, as I said, you have to make sure that you know who you are and what you want, and you will fail you will fail and you won't get it right, but you just have to keep on going, because I think the strength of wanting to tell stories is so strong that it will make you do it. I think Quentin Tarantino says, if you are obsessed with film and you're obsessed with wanting to tell a story, and you have to, then you'll make a good film, because when you continue to fail, you learn from that and you'll eventually get there. And little quotes like that mean so much to me, because you can't explain the amount of hard work that you need to put into it. Now, we could sit here and say, yes, we're not getting representation, and yes, we're not, etc., etc. We can sit here and do that, but at the same time, it takes that individual to just work harder than everyone else. Being from Kenya, my mum told me, she said, look, you need to be exceptional. We're in the UK now. You need to work harder than everyone else, and that ran true with me for years. So the whole black-white thing, with the documentary Black and Scottish, had done extremely well. Yeah, not because I was a black director, it's because it was a good story, and that good story has kind of shot through. So it's not a case of I've created something and put it in front of people. I've created something that was unique, that had never been told before. But you need to. I can't explain how important it is to work harder than everyone else and self-teach, because I didn't come from this industry, but the love and passion is so important.
Yeah, and I think we were chatting a bit before we went live, and we were talking about how, I mean, that's what people are now wanting in this kind of new era of COVID, with that we can't have these big crews. You know, people want people that can do everything, and this work that you've now put in is meaning that you're very easily, you know, able to adapt to the situation. When you too, Vanessa, you know, you've been making content from home, obviously you were saying there's now issues with it being in your home and having your kids home and things, but you're used to adapting, I guess, and you have those skills. Yeah, it's very interesting. And I think something that both you guys have spoken about is this kind of introduction of kind of the online space and social media into this now. And I wonder, I think, Vanessa, just because you work, that's kind of the primary platform in which you work. Do you think that's kind of, I guess, sort of democratized the space a bit, kind of given it access? People no longer have to go through these institutions anymore. They could just go and make that content themselves, build a following, get their voices heard in that way, without kind of having to go through these gatekeepers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there is beauty in TV, but I think even, the main channels are realizing how important the internet is, and the fact that people have their own voices, that they can tell for themselves. And I think because of that, things like YouTube, although people might say, YouTubers, but it's like, actually, these people have built a platform. They are totally doing, well, a lot of people start by doing everything themselves. They might then employ people to work for them, but they can say whatever they want, within reason. And they are making a lot of money. Some of these people, like the big YouTubers are making more than what I think, people would be commissioned to make a documentary for example. They could make that same thing, put it on their own platform, potentially reach more people and make more money. So, it's like, although it takes a long time to get there, I've been on YouTube now for 3 years. I've got 45,000 subscribers. So it does take time to get to that point. Only recently would I say that it's become like a good sort of income for me. So it does take time. You have to have patience, but it's just the same as anything. You do have to have patience, I guess, even if you were doing anything else, things take time. But I think that it's so interesting the way that everything's changing, and the way that online, even if you look at something like BBC Three, that's changed to online. A lot of people watch content through things like iPlayer. I mean, I watch things on iPlayer, like I rarely put on the TV at the time that the thing's on, unless I'm in it, really, I watch things on demand, and I think a lot of the channels are realizing that, and the beauty that has for both creators coming into the space, and also for them to sort of adapt their ways in the way that they are publishing content. I mean, I made a video a couple of weeks ago called Racism in Scotland, which I put on my Instagram, which I'd never done before. I normally focus on YouTube, and that got like 85,000 views just through people sharing on Instagram. And that's the thing about Instagram, is it's easily shareable content. So people can easily put that in their stories, and then it's getting to thousands and thousands of people. I mean, I had somebody who has 1 million followers repost that. So it's an easy way to get to a lot of eyes. And that story for me was so important, because people were seeing what happened to George Floyd, but we're saying this, oh, but like this doesn't happen in Scotland, as if Scotland is totally, just, I mean, do you know what? Like, I love Scotland, obviously. I was born and raised here, but there's racism every day. People face racism, even, just microaggressions, but also more serious racism. For example, people throughout my life have touched my hair, and I have normalized it. Obviously, I say no now as well, but when I was younger, I didn't know to do that. But people, I never really spoke about it, but once I spoke about it on social media, and my friends that were white were just like, what? Why would anybody do that? Why would anybody just come up and touch your hair? And that's when you start to realize, like, hang on, that's not normal, So it's when you start telling these stories that people start to understand that maybe their behavior isn't okay. And so that's the importance as well of telling Black stories, because you might not have any friends that are of any ethnic minorities in Scotland, because in some towns it is really white. So it's so important to, through social media, through TV and whatever, getting new, fresh, and also Black voices out there.
I just quickly like to add to that from a social media perspective. I came from designing. I work with a lot of people within that space. Now, there's two little stories here. I'm on a panel for Creative Cities Convention next year, and that allowed me to start speaking to commissioners at Channel 4, head of diversity, people at STV. So we had this meeting about a potential commission. And just prior to the meeting, we were chatting about online, and they said to me, why do you think people are not as interested in television rather than social media? And I said to them, the way you need to look at it is this. If you listen to Vanessa Kanbi, she just given us some numbers, 85,000, 45,000 and million, etc., right? Now, if you ask anyone that wants to get into that space, they'll tell you, and they'll look at other people and go, well, that person's got 3 million followers, that person's getting 100,000 views a day, that person's got so many followers on Instagram, Twitter, etc., right? So if you're looking to get into that space and you're hearing those numbers, you're going to be like, right, okay, I want to try and do the same thing. Now, if you try and promote television, there's no numbers whatsoever. It's just, we're Channel 4, we're the BBC, we're up here and you're down there. They're not, there's no numbers, you know, there's no figures to entice you. And I said to them, that's what one of the main problems are. You need to start showing them what not from a monetization perspective, but you need to show them that there's a potential of having X amount of followers online, because that's what we'll always go back to. And the other thing is, I hope there's no one from BBC Scotland listening, because between our little group here, I wasn't that
bothered. And Facebook.
I know, and recorded. I'm like,
and everybody live on Facebook. But
yeah. Well, I was more interested in online. So when I knew that it was going to be in BBC iPlayer, I was more interested in that, and that's just me being honest, because I knew that it's literally just a link. You know, if you think about it from TV perspective, that it's advertised to you, and then you go ahead and watch it. Online, it's literally just, here's a link, click it, it's done. It's as easy as that. You put it in front of a million people, you've got a million people potentially clicking it. Now, the social media, one of the other reasons I wanted to work with this social media influencer is because his reach is worldwide. One post from him, continuous posts, not just one before the launch. You're doing a kind of social media campaign to take them back to television. You know, take the audience back to television, and then eventually take them back to BBC iPlayer. So that for me is a platform that I'm looking to work on as well, because I think it's the future. If you look at things like Netflix, we're watching Netflix on our televisions, but it is still an online application. So it's definitely the way forward.
I'm just aware that we're running out of time. I've got so many other questions I could ask, but I've seen that we've got some questions coming in the side.
So Tristan says, as a producer and curator via Dockheads, I'm interested to know if there are any resources where documentary films directed by Black British filmmakers live.
Yes.
I don't.
Producer, creator, I'm interested to know if there are any resources where Black documentary.
I'm also interested in this answer to this question, because I would love to know.
Same. I don't know.
By Black British. Okay, yeah, there's quite a few places. We've got BBC that's got their Black there's a section there, just all Black films. You've got Netflix, who have a section for just all Black films as well. There's been a couple of there's Facebook groups as well for Black filmmakers, film and documentary people. And you know, upsetting thing is that is after post-Black after Black Lives Matter campaign. This is where all of these things came out. So they were curated afterwards. But you can go to Netflix, you can go to BBC and other channels and places online where it literally is just black films. So yes, they are here now.
Okay.
And Black and Scottish is in it, in all of them.
Well, the next question is about Black and Scottish, actually, from Diana, who says, how difficult was it to get the contributors involved, and did that process take long?
It's fairly easy, to be honest with you. We had a great researcher, really good researcher, but there was people that I knew of that I knew I wanted to interview. But when you've got black people in a room, and you're saying, I want to create something to represent you, you guys are going to be role models, we want to hear your story, we want you to open up, this is what I've been through, this is the reason that I'm making it, it's passionate, it's personal to me, I want to do it for my daughter and my next generation. Literally, that's all you need to say. All you need to say, and then you'll get X amount of people that will say, yeah, I'd love to do that, or I would love to do it, but I'm not, I can't really I'm not confident on camera. But also because I made the trailer as well, they all had, they all viewed that trailer, so they had that, and then they had my story, and they had the kind of format that we want to go down. And then we just contacted people, but because it was coming from Turn Television, and it was obviously going to be on BBC as well, these people were a lot more interested. So we had Shooty Gatwa from Sex Education, Netflix, who was probably our biggest star, and we just contacted his agency, and we basically told him the story and what it is that we wanted to create, and instantly he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And he's like, I'm filming just now. He then spoke to his agency and the people at Netflix and said, Shooty really wants to do this. He wants to go up to Scotland. And he said it's the first time he's properly worked in Scotland, and he's never had the opportunity to tell this story. So he was like, I would love to do it. So he came up from the day and stopped filming. And he told his story. And on the documentary, he coined that he was a Rwandan Scotsman. And then afterwards, when I spoke to him, he then said to me, thank you so much for doing this. He had a Scottish accent at the time when he's speaking to me. And then after that, on all of his handles and all of the social media, he had the Rwandan Scotsman. So in me making that documentary, he said to me, look, thank you so much, because my identity, I feel like I found myself. So so my story, me telling him my story, he's like, yeah, let's do it. And then majority of them were like that as well. I'm sure that was the case for you, Vanessa, when we approached you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question, I don't think it would be difficult. And also for Stewart, obviously, when I heard what he was doing, I was like, that's amazing. Nobody's talking about that. Or there might be, but nobody's talking about it on that scale. So I don't think anybody in their right mind sort of would say no unless they weren't comfortable with being on, because these voices need to get out there, and everybody knows that. So obviously, you'd want to get involved in something like that. And also, when I just did that Racism in Scotland video, which was just going on Instagram, on my own Instagram, I don't have that many followers. Every single person that I contacted wanted to be involved and wanted to do it. We didn't know that it was going to have the reach that it did, but everyone wants this story out there because it's so important.
Yeah, well, that's great. So you have a great idea, and people,
that's it.
If you put it out there, people will respond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got a question as well from Yasmin, who says, summarising a little bit, just says really, she's heard that there's a struggle to find black producers. What's your experience been in this area?
No, it's not hard at all.
No.
In terms of the experience level, yeah, maybe to get someone fairly higher up, that may be difficult. But for me, as soon as Black and Scottish finished, my phone I stupidly put my phone number on my website, and my phone was going off, and my social media, etc. Hi, I'm this, and I'm a producer, and I'm looking to make this, and that. I put something on social media on Facebook. I started connecting with different groups. One called the Black Owned Community, and I had 650. I said, is there any suggestions of what I could make next? 650 different stories of what people were suggesting, and X amount of them were producers. So many people from all around the UK, and it was that one question, I was overwhelmed. I had thousands of likes, and so it's not difficult at all, because I've now got a producer assistant, and I've now got a producer director, both female and both Black, now working with me on this current documentary, and I have other people that I'm looking to work with as well. So it's not difficult at all. It may be difficult, I guess, when they see someone like you. They're like, oh, I can go to him, and they open up and they want to work with me. So it's not difficult. I did a thing at Focus Scotland in Edinburgh, an event there. And the reason why a lot of people contacted me is because Channel 4 and these different companies were on the panel and were saying, we can't seem to find people. It takes time. And I just grabbed the microphone. I'm like, look, you're lying. It doesn't take time. You're just not actively seeking. And why is it that people have contacted me after Black and Scottish? And you have to work a lot harder, and it doesn't take time. As soon as that finished, people then contacted me, and then from there, I was on creative conventions and here and there and everywhere. So they just need someone to speak up, and they need someone to create for these individuals to now come and speak to come and approach you.
I totally agree. I mean, I know loads of people in film. I know somebody in particular who has been working in the TV space for years in Scotland as a runner, who hasn't been able to make the level up. And trust me, he's tried, and he's so hardworking. And I'm like, it actually makes me so angry, because I'm like, how do people think, like, how are people saying it's difficult? It's not difficult. Like, I don't know, I can't even get into that. Do you
know what, Vanessa? Right. See the anger that you've got, I've got it as well. It's like, even just listening and just talking about it, it's like, it's so annoying, it's so frustrating, it angers me. And see, because of that anger, that is your fuel to continue.
Yeah.
Higher you get,
there's no excuse. These people, like these channels, for example, that there's actually no excuse. Even ask someone like Stewart or someone like me if you're looking for a Black producer, and we can give you some names. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, funny that, actually. Just quickly before we go, with the BBC, I've been putting together a BAME networking event. It was a massive event with commissioners, etc. Execs were all going to it. They were flying people up from London to come to it. We were going to have 50+ Black people within the industry. Obviously, because of lockdown, that didn't happen, but it's still going to happen, and it would be the biggest BAME networking event in Scotland within that sector. Now, that is literally off the back of making that documentary. I'm hosting it. I'm on the panel. I'm bringing people in, etc. So there you go. How was I able to? Would I have been able to do that if I didn't shoot the documentary? No way. But now, so Vanessa, I forgot. Yeah, I think I've told you about it.
yeah, you told me. I'm excited to come.
That's well, unfortunately, we're at 11 o'clock. I mean, the hour has just disappeared on us. Just trying to think who we should speak to first. Carmen, you've got lots of questions left as well. So
I can. I can just send them afterwards.
Well, I think we should let's maybe bring Noe back into this as the director of SDI. It'd be great to just maybe you could sum up a little bit, but also maybe you could have a chat a little bit about New Voices, which is a new program that we just launched last week. But also, I just think there's definitely more that we can do, I think, to try and share the information that people are finding difficult or struggling to find. Maybe there's more that we can do to get that information out there. But we don't have to answer all that just now, Noe. But maybe you want to talk a little bit about New Voices or just what we've talked about just now.
Well, New Voices, as you know, is a new scheme that we're running for mentorship. And we're trying to focus on women from Black women, women from minorities, different ethnic communities, etc. Kind of, to bring those kind of, voices and the stories that we're not accessing. And I'm really excited when I hear Stewart and Vanessa kind of talking about the wealth of Black filmmakers, out there, which we've yet got to discover, both in terms of working with them, but also in terms of exhibiting kind of, their work. So I think the next few months are really going to be exciting, and at long last kind of, trying to push kind of, those new voices kind of, forward, and to be really part of the documentary community, because we we haven't had kind of, so many coming forward, and maybe it's kind of from both sides, kind of, maybe we haven't made a big enough effort kind of to welcome them. Maybe kind of, they haven't felt that what they want to say is somehow kind of, accepted or part of the community, which kind of, is already out there. But definitely, I mean, the stories that you, Stewart, and Vanessa kind of, are telling can only be done by you guys, kind of, so it's really important that they are shared kind of, beyond the Black community, because we need the stories to kind of enrich kind of, all of us, our lives. And we need to know that the world is a different place, and start kind of, thinking that the world is a different place, and behaving like the world is a different place. So all of that, needs to be kind of, constructed. It doesn't just happen. So that's why kind of, we launched kind of, the scheme of mentorship. I mean, like what you are saying, Vanessa, I think it's really important kind of once in a while, to have a person there to be able to talk to, and say, please kind of, give me some guidance, please introduce me to the right people. Because sometimes, like you were saying, Stewart, it's just kind of, being pushed one step, and then all of a sudden there is, all those options, all those possibilities. And it should be up to you as a filmmaker to be able to kind of choose, which possibility you want to, to pursue. But you do need that kind of, one step, that one person to kind of help you kind of, taking kind of, that first step. And hopefully the more we can kind of, help each other taking that first step, so the more possibilities will grow out of that. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, the commissioning process is very white, very male. And we will break that kind of, that process. There's just no way it can carry on kind of, being the same. I mean, to a certain extent, white women have started to kind of, to break it, but we've got to open the gates kind of, to be much wider. And saying that Scotland is only kind of, we've only got 1% of Black people, it is, I mean, it's not enough, because we don't want just 1% of stories reflecting the Black community. We want a lot more than that, because it's not about keeping up numbers. It's about kind of enriching our lives and making sure that all those different stories that we can have access, will be there. And I certainly need a lot more than just 1% of kind of Black stories on my kind of screen, or in my cinema. So yeah, it's kind of really exciting launching this scheme, and hopefully to start opening doors, finding ways of allowing people coming through and working, kind of sharing with us, really. So that's kind of, so the scheme basically, I mean, you can go and read it in our website, and it's will be kind of, trying to advertise as much as possible. So anyone here today attending, please kind of, pass it on kind of, to your contacts, and we'll be starting kind of in October for 6 months, and it's a pilot scheme, and hopefully it will be something which will go on happening in Scotland.
Yeah, and I was also just going to mention briefly there, Bridging the Gap. The Bridging the Gap scheme will be starting, I think, is it August time, Noe?
Yeah.
And that's another opportunity for new filmmakers to pitch their ideas. And Hannah, who was on, I don't know if she's still on, but she mentioned there about winning a BAFTA Scotland award last year. So excuse me. So that's just another opportunity we've got, but we want to try and share other opportunities through our newsletter and through social media. And so hopefully we can do that, maybe chat to Stewart and Vanessa afterwards, and we can start to get more information out there. So any way we can help, please let us know.
Oh, I was just going to say, Carmen, can I just, I just like to say thank you so much to Stewart and Vanessa. I just think you guys are badass. Yeah, I think like Hannah was saying before, like it's crazy that any person needs to work harder than anyone else. But honestly, I see and feel the work that you guys have put into what you do. And I think it's, the stuff you're making is a breath of fresh air for so many people. And I think the way that people have responded has shown, like you say, Stewart, just the power that stories mean in our society today. And just, I am so excited about the stuff you guys are going to make. And look forward to hopefully working with you in various other ways in the future.
Yeah.
But thanks so much, honestly. It's been,
No problem, no problem at all. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And also, I wanted to kind of also say a positive note at the end, which is that being a Black filmmaker in Scotland definitely has its advantages, because there's not that many of us, like we've got unique stories to tell.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely an amazing thing to be doing.
Fantastic. That's a nice positive.
Also, one thing for me, I have to give all respect to Louise Thornton from the BBC. She's a commissioner at BBC Scotland who is championing BAME stories, but also championing stories from women as well. So she's definitely someone who is approachable. So I would say anyone out there who has a good idea for a story, and it's set out well and good summary and pitch, etc., and they know what they want to make, definitely please contact Louise, because she'll be more than happy to listen to you. She's one of the good ones.